The top frequently asked questions when it comes to credit repair and credit restoration. Now, feel free to skip along to any of the other chapters if you want to get to a question specific to you, or you can stick around through the whole video and get all of the nuggets so you can be better equipped to understand credit from a grand scheme of things. Some of the questions will start out very basic, then they will get more intense and more detailed, and these are real questions that really people have in terms of understanding credit overall. Now, I will say this is going to be a lengthy video. It's about 75 questions on here. I may have some parts where I skip up or say something wrong or stutter. I'm going to keep it, no edits. I want to be raw, authentic, because I want to bang these out because I know this is going to help a lot of people. But again, remember, you can always skip along, come back, play it, share it with somebody else who you feel may benefit. Let's dive in. So, number one, and then there'll be some resources available too. So anything that I talk about that you feel you may need a resource to, it'll be available below. And if you feel the urge to ask some questions that may not have been included, feel free to drop that down below and I'll create some content centered around that as well. And it may become a part two. But let's dive in. Number one, what is a credit report and who keeps it? So simply put, a credit report is basically a report, pretty much consider it like your report card, but it's based on your ability to make on-time payments over time and what type of accounts you have. So it's a combination of your ability to make payments on certain accounts over a duration of time since things have been being reported to your credit, which also includes your name, your address, your work history, putting that all together so that you can have an overall credit report that produces a score. And this is typically housed at some type of consumer reporting agency. Emphasis on consumer reporting agency, because a lot of times they are referred to as credit bureaus. Basically, they just keep data on consumers, but it's held by the consumer reporting agencies based on whoever feeds them the information. So this could come from banks, this can come from apartment complexes, this can come from your job, this can come from banks, like from lawyers or courts or things of that nature. So it can come from different places, but they house all of that information, and from that you get graded based on your ability to do certain things, keep agreements, and prove that you have credibility. Credit, when you think of credit, think of credibility. Your ability to make on-time payments over time, keep your word on the commitments that you've made. That's question number one. Number two, what is a credit score and how is it calculated? So a credit score is basically the score based on your report. So they take your report and all of the things that's going on in your report, and then they formulate a score to determine what your score is. And the higher your score, the more you've kept your word on certain agreements or contracts or things that you said that you were going to pay. The lower your score is, typically the less good you have going on. You may have had some hiccups throughout life, as many people do. We all do. You may have had certain scenarios where things went to charge off for collection. So that all goes into lowering your score. So how is it calculated? It's 5 main factors. If you remember this puts you in a better position to understand credit overall. But more importantly, it puts you in a position to know how to bounce back or recover from any situation, or you'll know what you need specifically to better your credit. So many times people just take blind advice, not knowing that all information may not be applicable to them. Even though it's good information, it just might not be applicable to you. So the score is calculated based on these 5 factors. Number 1, payment history. Number 2, credit utilization. Number 3, credit history. Then you got new credit and credit mix. Payment history is responsible for 35% of your score. That equates to 192.5 points. So it's very important to have on-time payments. Payment history is just the payments over time, and it's very important to have on-time payments because it's responsible for 192.5 points. One late payment can drop your score over 100 points. It happens all the time. So payment history is very important. It's just, there's no simple way to put it. Need to have 100% payment history in order to get the most out of that factor. The second factor being credit utilization is 30% of your score. 30%. So that's responsible for 165 points. This is based on credit cards. So when you hear credit utilization, think credit cards. When you hear credit utilization, think lines of credit. So it could be a line of credit, meaning that, somebody extended you a line of credit, or a company, or, you might have had a HELOC, a line of credit, meaning that you can use the money, pay it off, use it, pay it off. You never fully pay it off. You're constantly able to use it. So it's revolving credit. It's like a revolving door. With an auto loan or a mortgage, you have a date that you would eventually fully pay it off. But with a revolving card, you're using it, and then you're paying it off, but you still have the ability to use it once you paid it off. So with credit utilization, it's 165 points. But the way that you maximize those 165 points is properly knowing how to use your credit cards. I'll get more into detail on that later. Then next up, you have credit history. That's the age of your credit, but it's the average of all of your accounts. So it's not just taking your oldest account and saying, okay, he has an account that's 15 years old, so his credit age is 15 years. No, it's an average. So if you had an account that was 10 years old, then another account that was 5 years old, and then another account that was 3 years old. That's a total of 18 years if you take the 3, the 5, and the 10. But since it's an average, you got to divide it by 3. So 18 divided by 3, 6. You will have a credit age of 6 years. That's how that works. And that's responsible for 15% of your score. So that's important to know. Not to have too many new accounts because it'll offset your credit age. And when you get an account open, plan on keeping it for a long time because it'll help you over time as well. Next up is new credit. This is basically your inquiries and how recent of a account you may have opened. So the past 2 years has the biggest impact, and you don't want to have too many inquiries. I know it's times where you're building up your credit, you might apply for a lot of things, but you having new lines of credit is something, or a whole lot of inquiries can damage your score because it looks like you're always trying to borrow money. If you knew anybody in your circle and they always was asking for money, you would probably dodge them like a plague. Well, the banks are the same way. They understand that if somebody is constantly applying for things, they got 25 inquiries. They're like, nah, they always asking for money. Ain't no sense of us loaning money to them because they always asking somebody else for money. Then we might not get paid. So you don't want to have a whole lot of inquiries, but that's 10% of your score, 55 points. Then last but not least, credit mix. Credit mix is basically a mixture of things on your report. They need to see that you're able to handle multiple accounts. Are you good at handling installment debt, which is the car loans, the personal loans, the mortgage? Are you good at those type of accounts? Are you good with revolving credit, which is the credit cards and the lines of credit that I told you about? And if you have a combination of those things, it comes together to form 10% of your score, another 55% of your score, and it helps you maximize your score. So that's how scores are calculated. That's the factors. And if you understand those 5 factors, you put yourself in a position to be on another level and know exactly what you need to do to better your credit. Number 3, what are the major credit bureaus? So the major credit bureaus are Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. But again, remember what I said. It's consumer reporting agencies. A lot of people call them credit bureaus, and we just bought into that. So if you say credit bureaus or I say credit bureaus, just know that I know. And now that you know, okay, consumer reporting agencies. And the reason why I say that is because legally, if you look into the laws and the codes and things that govern the credit industry, then you'll see that they're listed in law as consumer reporting agencies. But the main 3, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Those are the individual entities that pretty much have monopolized, in a sense. It ain't monopoly because it's more than one, but try monopolize, if that's a word, the scoring model. Those are the main 3 that people focus on. There are other consumer reporting agencies, but those are the main 3. Number 4, what information appears on a credit report? I covered this, so I'll just be brief. So it's going to be things like your name, your employment, your date of birth, your address, the accounts that you have opened of any kind, whether it's student loan, mortgage, credit cards, auto loans, whatever, whether it's department store cards, you name it, all of these things on your credit report. Even medical. Now, they're getting to a place that they're going to minimize the medical accounts, but it is something that is on your report. And all of those things come together to form your credit report, which converts into your credit score. So that's just, one example. Now I'm gonna stop numbering them because I'm gonna end up losing count. All right, how often can I get a free credit report? Great question. So you can get a free credit report every week at annualcreditreport.com. Now I know you might be thinking, it's annual, how are you able to get it every week? Well, it used to be just once a year, free of charge. However, you can get your free credit report every week because they know a lot is happening, especially in the age of technology. A lot of things are happening to the point where a person needs to monitor their score a lot more often than just once a year. So at one point that was fine to do it annually, but now you can do it weekly. And they made that possible, I believe, in 2020 because of the different things that were going on people's credit profiles. So yes, you can pull your report weekly at annualcreditreport.com. That's the main site that's backed by the government. Of course, you can pull your report on other platforms that allow you to pull it typically every 30 days, like, you know, your different FAQs or your advantage scores and things of that nature. However, pulling your report only, no scores, annualcreditreport.com once a week. You do that weekly. Let's keep going. What's the difference between a credit report and a credit score? I got ahead of myself. So a credit report is just the details, the data that's on your report. What type of account, the name, the address, the date of birth, you know, parts of other numbers that you may have had, your history of old addresses, new addresses, accounts, you name it. That's the credit report, all of that data. The score is just what that report produced. So based on all the data they have, what type of score should this person have? So it's a formula based on the report. A score is the formula based on the report. Hopefully that makes sense. That's the difference between the two. The score is just a number, and sometimes people only focus on the number. It's good to focus on the number because it lets you know if your report is doing what it needs to do. But when it comes down to trying to apply for a bigger ticket item like a home, the report is highly important. If they see that you got a lot of different things on your report and seeing that you've been able to pay off a car, you've been able to pay off a personal loan, you've been able to manage multiple types of accounts, even if your score might say that you're a 670, they're going to look at that like, oh, that's solid, because we know they had an ability to make on-time payments and pay things off, opposed to somebody who has a 750, but all they did was just get added as an authorized user on their parents' account, and they only have 2 accounts. They're going to trust the person who's been able to pay off multiple accounts over the score. So that's the difference. The report is solid, but it reflects the score, but they can look deeper than the score and get to the report and see what a person's true habits really are. Very important. All right, so how do late payments affect my credit score? If you were listening in the beginning, then a late payment will affect your credit score because payment history is responsible for 35% of the score. 35% of your score equates to 192.5 points. There are a total of 550 points that you can get. Everybody starts off with a baseline of at least 300. It goes up to 850. Do the math. Between that, that's 550 points. Well, 35% of that equates to 192.5 points. So a late payment can affect your score drastically because you want to have up to 100% payment history, but one late payment can drop your score up to 100 points. So it's very important not to be taken lightly, to the point where if you do get a late payment, you want to do whatever you can to figure out how to get that updated to a positive status. More details on that later. All right. What is credit utilization and why does it matter? Credit utilization is when you have a credit card or a line of credit, is how much of that credit limit have you utilized? Credit utilization, how much of it have you used? So if you have a credit card and it's $1,000 limit and you've used 500 of that credit card, that is 50% utilization. If you have $1,000 credit card and you utilize 800, that's 80% utilization. If you have $1,000 credit card and you use 5%, then that is $50 of credit utilization. Why is it important? Well, they look at that as if you are maxing out your card, then that means you must be high risk, because they look at it like, oh, this person really needs this credit card. And if they really need this credit card, then it's a chance they might not be able to pay it back, and they ding your score for that. So as a result of you having a high utilization, basically maxing out your cards, that can drop your score over 100 points as well. However, if you get those cards down below 5% as we recommend, then that can boost your score up to 165 points. And the higher the limit, the better. So even though you might have started with $1,000 credit card, you want to get to where you have those higher limits, because the higher limits open up the doors for higher points that you get access to when it comes to the 165 points available to you in that area. But it's all about having a low balance. Use the card, but know how to pay it off, and do that every single month. And more importantly, know what day they're going to report to the credit bureau. So if you know they're going to report on the 30th, you want to set a goal to get your balance as low as possible. 0, less than 5%. And that way you maximize how many points you get from it. You maximize the interest that you save from it. And then you can do that every single month. And that's something you have control over. So even if you did run into a tough time where you might have maxed out your card, you know exactly what you need to do to get it lower. And it can help you get up to 165 points just off of that alone. More details coming on that, but just really wanted to stress the importance of credit utilization and the impact that it has. All right, next question. Do small balances like $1 to $5 hurt my credit? And the answer is no. That ties into me saying that you having a low balance can benefit you. Now, some people may say, well, you want to make sure you have a certain amount on there. I get all that. But if you have been using the card and now you are reporting $5, $1, but you're still using the card, but you just know how to pay it off to that, that's beneficial to you, because you got to understand that you should have your best interest at heart, not the banks. They want you to carry your balance because they make money off the interest. But if you keep a low balance or no balance, then you pay them nothing in interest. So you're getting interest-free loan in a sense on a month-to-month basis, and it helps in your credit score. Now, some people swear that if you have a certain balance, that it helps to get a higher credit score. But I challenge you to look at your credit score, look at your credit utilization, pay it off, use it, and pay it off in full. Let it report fully and see how it benefits your score. Then if you want to compare, okay, but if I had, 10% still on there, how does that help your score? And then that'll give you your answer. But my recommendation, suggestion is basically, listen, keep a low balance because it helps your score and it saves you a ton on interest. But having a low balance of $1 to $5 is not going to hurt your score as long as you continue to use the card, accordingly. All right, next question. How long does negative information stay on my credit report? Typically, it's about 7 years. 7 years that accounts can stay on your credit report, negative information. But just because that's the typical time that negative information stays on your credit report, that doesn't mean that it's mandatory that it stays on your credit report for that long. And we'll get more into details on that. But that's the reason why disputes exist, because if the companies, the credit reporting or consumer reporting agencies aren't recording information properly, then you can get it removed well beyond the 7 years. So you don't have to wait the 7 years for something to fall off if you find that it was a reason to get it removed. So 7 years is the time frame, but you don't have to wait for 7 years in order for something to roll off. I'm not going to speak in detail on that right now, so we can move on to the next question because I know that question is coming. Now, can accurate negative information ever be removed early? I got ahead of myself. Accurate negative information be removed early. Now, they said accurate negative information be removed early. Yes, but just because it's accurate doesn't mean that it's not going to have an error associated with it. What do I mean? Accurate is just meaning that you know it was your account. However, due to the FCRA, Fair Credit Reporting Act, it should be maximum possible accuracy. That means no errors at all, no flaws at all across the board. So if you notice that there's an error on their report, that error, although accurate account because it was yours, can and should be removed based on the law, based on the FCRA. So don't confuse accuracy with not having any errors. Don't confuse accuracy with perfection, because just because it's accurate and you know you might have opened an account doesn't mean that their record keeping was on point, especially with all of these data furnishers that's putting information out there that does not align with your true information, and they have tons of errors across the board. So very important to know. Next question. What is a mixed file or identity mix-up on a credit report? Now, this right here is something that can actually put money in your pocket. My legal team actually helps with seeing how FCRA violations can get a person up to $2,500. But a mixed file, or what was the verbiage? Identity mix-up on the credit report can be, say it's a father and a son, and say it was a senior and a junior. Sometimes they may have commingled information on the credit profile. That's a mixed file, and identity being mixed up. Sometimes it could be just people with the same name, and they may live in the same state, and now some kind of way their information got mixed up. You're like, I never lived at this address. I never, worked at this job. Some of your information got mixed up because two people with the same name in close proximity, the information got mixed up. And those are just two examples, but basically just information that came from another person's profile got mixed into your profile. It could be a couple or a previous relationship to where it was people married, they got divorced, and, there's some things that still show up as if it was the spouse's information still showing up, long term. That could be an example. So just basically information being mixed in with your information or someone's information, even though it's not 100% yours. And this right here, remaining on the person's profile, is a violation. They're not supposed to have that. Their record's supposed to be on point, and this could lead to a FCRA violation that could lead to further compensation. More details on that as well. All right, let's keep going. How can errors in personal information, name, address, social security number, affect my credit? So errors in personal information can affect your credit, not directly, just the error alone, but you having errors on your credit report or, errors in your personal information can tie your negative debt to old addresses or old situations. So you having that type of information on your profile sometimes is what keeps you attached to your bad history. So sometimes it makes sense to clear up all of that old history so that way you're not attached to the old you, the old collections, the old charge-offs, the old debts that still remain based on your old personal information. Now, I say sometimes because I want to stick a pin in it. You can also leverage the fact that you have errors in your personal information, because if your name is not correct fully with these consumer reporting agencies, if your address is not correct with these consumer reporting agencies, then guess what? What do you know that has your name and has your address on it? Billing. That means that if some of your personal information is incorrect or flawed, that's a billing error, which means it's potential for you to leverage the fact that you had errors, and now you can get certain accounts deleted. And what I've been able to do for many clients is find billing errors and get some of the accounts that had late payments updated to positive. Because I can say, hey, it's a billing error here. Because I see that they don't have all of their data in order. That means that, they possibly sent a bill to a wrong address and it might not have gotten to me. So that's a billing error. That billing error can be leveraged and turned into positivity on your credit report. So before you just fast forward and jump to getting things removed, consider leveraging any billing error. So yes, it can have an effect by attaching you to old negativity, or you can say, you know what, before I remove that, let's see if I can use that to my advantage in order to get some things updated to a more positive status. Next question. What are duplicate accounts on a credit report and how to handle them? Two ways to handle them, but duplicate accounts are basically exactly what it sounds like. Two accounts identical to each other, same file name, same balance, everything matching, but they've reported it twice. That is an FCRA violation and it should not be on there. So you can dispute it and say, hey, it's a duplicate account and they're supposed to remove it. However, another thing is, again, my legal team, they basically take those accounts and they say, hey, this is a duplicate account, and they show you how you may qualify for $1,000 to $2,500 due to the FCRA error in having a duplicate account, because they're not supposed to have that. That's poor record keeping on their behalf. So if you ever looked at your credit report and you noticed that you had a duplicate account, you may be entitled to compensation up to $2,500, but you definitely can dispute it and say, hey, duplicate account, and have it removed, because sometimes a duplicate account on your profile can cause you to have higher debt to income ratio. Quick example, say you had an account that was showing up and it said that you owed $15,000. Well, if that account is on there twice, now it's showing that you owe $30,000 just off of this account. That can make your debt to income ratio look pretty high, because it's showing $30,000 instead of $15,000, which is a significant difference. So that's the importance of not having it there, and that's why it's so important for them to not have that type of violation on your profile, because that can be the thing that keeps you from qualifying for the home or gets you overcharged in interest rates. So that's why these things are important. But a duplicate account, same account showing up twice, you can get it removed, or you possibly be entitled to compensation. Next question. All right, what is a collection account and how does it get on your report? So a collection account typically starts with an account that you once had that was open. You eventually didn't pay it, and they got to a place to where they said, okay, if we haven't collected in the past 120 days, we're going to close this account and turn it into a collection account by selling it. We're not going to be able to collect money from them, but we can sell it to a debt collector or a debt buyer, somebody who buys bulks of debt. And now it turns into a collection account, not to be confused with a charge-off. It turns into a collection account because now they weren't able to collect. So they say, let me get something out of it, and they sell it. That's a collection account. And it gets on your report because the same entity that was once reporting your on-time payments, your, the fact that you opened up that account, now they're saying, hey, we no longer are able to collect on this account, so we're going to report this as a bad debt, aka a collection, a closed account. And that's that. Now, there's other rules and regulations to that, because if they are no longer able to collect on it and turn it into a collection, then they shouldn't be reporting the balance along with the debt collector then reporting the balance. But they start to submit this information, to different consumer reporting agencies, and this is how it ends up on your credit report. But it all started with an account that did not get paid over time to the point where they say, okay, we're going to close it, we're going to sell it out to somebody else, and we are going to report it. Let's keep going. Next question, how are charge-offs different from collections? Now, I said not to be confused with charge-offs when I talked about the collection. Let me get a quick sip of water. So the difference between a charge-off and a collection is the account was sold off. A charge-off is the company took the debt, and instead of selling it, they said, okay, it's $15,000. We're not able to collect this, but we don't want to come up at a loss. We don't want to not collect that and just deal with the fact that we weren't able to collect the money. Let's take this as a tax deduction. Let's take this as a loss. Let's take this as $15,000 that we weren't able to collect on. Our company was at a loss of $15,000. This is a $15,000 tax deduction for us, and it offsets their profit. So now they're able to use that to their advantage. And if you know anything about record keeping and tax deduction, it's good to have some tax deductions, some tax write-offs, because now you might have made X amount of money, but you got these tax deductions that lower your tax liability, and it's less taxes you have to pay out, and it's more money you can keep in your pocket. So they take that $15,000 as a tax write-off. It's a tax write-off to them, but it's a charge-off to you. And if they actually take the tax write-off and do it the right way, then they'll end up issuing you out a 1099-C, which is basically a 1099-C. It stands for, cancellation of debt. I almost lost it. Cancellation of debt. So 1099-C will be issued out to you because they canceled out the debt. You no longer owe it, but if they issue out a 1099-C on your end, it looks like income. That's $15,000 that you didn't have to pay. So that's $15,000 that get tacked on to income for you. And now you got to figure that out, because that could increase your tax liability, because it looks like you made more money since $15,000 is no longer owed by you. So charge off, they took it as a tax deduction. It's a charge off on your account, and it affects your score just like a collection. It can drop your score up to 100 points or more because it affects your payment history. Keep that in mind. So that's the difference. Next question. What is a public record? Judgment, tax lien, bankruptcy. Those are public records on your credit report. So a judgment, a tax lien, bankruptcy is considered to be a public record because it's publicly verifiable. They can look up to see if you owe taxes. If you look into the, the county records. Same with a judgment, same with a bankruptcy. Many times these courts are not reporting these bankruptcies. They're pulling it from different entities. And the banks will prove that they are not the ones that reported that. That's a whole nother conversation. But public record is just publicly verifiable information if you just look up the county records. Next question. Can negative information reappear after being removed? Great question. So yes is the simple answer. And many of you probably already know that you probably had something that was once removed, but then it got added back, right? You probably can relate to that or know somebody who can. Can it be? Yes. Just because it can be doesn't mean that it was done lawfully. In many cases, that is known as an unlawful reinsertion. Unlawful reinsertion. A lot of people don't talk about this. If something gets added back, it's a good chance that they may have committed an unlawful reinsertion. What is an unlawful reinsertion? Well, there's a rule that says if a person or if an account is added back that was once removed and the person wasn't notified within a 5-day window that it was going to be added back to their credit report, then they're in violation. That's known as an unlawful reinsertion. So with that unlawful reinsertion, what you want to consider doing is getting it removed based on their rule. So hey, they didn't notify you. So if they didn't notify you, then why are they reporting it and adding it back? They're doing that unlawfully, and in many cases you can get that removed. So that's the unlawful reinsertion based on the fact that something got added back. So yes, it can be added back. Should they add it back? Absolutely not. It's a certain way they should go about doing it, and it's by notifying you the proper way. Next question. What is re-aging of an account? Now, this typically happens with accounts like collections or things that, you know, a debt collector might have been aiming to collect on. You haven't said a word. It hasn't been, you know, addressed at all. You haven't paid anything. And let's say time lapses. So where it's been a year or 2 years. A re-agent of an account can be they contacted you. You now agreed to make a payment, or you did make a payment, and now it resurfaces as brand new. And they may trick you into saying, hey, just pay us $1 and, you know, we'll fall back for a second. They just want you to re-age the account so that it shows up fresh. So be very mindful of that, because the re-agent of an account can wake up or stir up the pot for something that was kind of getting a little distant, meaning that it was having less of an impact because time has lapsed and it's beyond 2 years, beyond 3 years, 4 years. But the fact that you agreed or you made some type of payment, you re-aged the account. Next question. How do hard and soft inquiries affect your credit score? So soft inquiries are just kind of like a heat check. Typically, banks might do it just to see if you still qualify for the terms, or if they want to give you access to more capital and give you a higher credit limit, or just kind of see what other offers may be available to you. Those are soft inquiries. Typically, it doesn't have an impact on your score. A hard inquiry, however, is you applying for something. So they're doing a hard check on seeing what it is that you may qualify for. With those hard inquiries, they basically are pulling your report, seeing what, you know, is happening, and it can ding your score 2 points here and there, but you just don't. I mean, it's the cost of basically getting access to whatever funding. So it's part of the game, but you don't want a lot of inquiries taking place all at the same time, because again, it goes back to a person seeming as if they're always asking for money. But the problem is sometimes you might go to a company, and usually this is something that happens with car dealerships. They're notorious for writing out or running your credit, doing a ton of hard inquiries. You apply for a car, but they ran your credit 12 times. Now those hard inquiries are on there, and only one company approved you for the loan. So it's very important to make sure that you don't have too many hard inquiries, because those hard inquiries stack up and can drop your score significantly. Imagine you had 12 inquiries all from one transaction of you trying to get a car, and say it dinged your score 2 points apiece. Now your score dropped 24 points just off of inquiries alone, hard inquiries. And lo and behold, you don't get approved. Now those inquiries dropped your score just off of applying. So hard inquiries have a bigger negative impact. Soft inquiries just a heat check to see what you may qualify for going forward. Next question. What should I do if I receive a court order from a debt collector? This is a great question. If you receive a court order or just any type of communication from a debt collector, it's important to, number one, if it's a court order, make sure it's legit. Like, see what's on there, see if, you know, it's the actual court on there. Contact the court, because a lot of times they use these scare tactics, because they know if a person sees that, they're like, hold on, I don't want to be sued, I don't know what to do, let me go ahead and call them or pay them. That's what they want. So first, making sure it's official is, you know, something you want to see if you can do. But contacting the court is better than contacting them. So if you see their number and things of that nature on there, contact the court, see if it's official. That's one thing to consider doing. In addition to that, you want to also do what's known as a debt validation letter. A good debt validation letter, and we make these available. You'll see some resources down below if you want to be a part of the community, get access to everything. But a good debt validation letter, mainly you're trying to get them to prove that they have the right to even collect on the debt. It's a debt validation letter. You're trying to make sure it's valid, you know. But the clause that you really want to have on there is assignment. You want to see if they have the assignment of debt. Basically, have they been assigned in a proper manner to even be able to collect on this debt? If the answer is no, then in many cases they leave you alone, because they know, oh, they haven't gone through the proper, they're not able to prove the proper chain of title, the chain of commands, and the assignment of the debt altogether. So a lot of times they leave you alone, they fall back, even if it was a court order. If they're not able to provide the assignment of debt, then they're operating unlawfully based on the FDCPA, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. That's a whole nother thing that I'll get into. So you want to get them an assignment of debt as soon as possible to make them prove that they even have the right to collect on their debt. Next question. If my credit score dropped due to a new car and inquiries, how do I get it back up? Great question. So scores can drop due to you getting a new account and new inquiries from getting a car, because a lot of times, like I said, at the dealership, they may run your credit 12 times and, it hurts your score. Now, if you're getting a vehicle, you definitely want to consider going through a credit union, going through a bank, to where it's one inquiry and you get approved for a certain amount, then you go to the dealership with your cashier's check and you buy it, based on that and follow those terms. So that's the best way to go about it. But if you did get a car and your score dropped, it's dropping because you have a new account and it's a new amount of debt. So you might have went from having whatever amount you had on your profile to now you got an extra $30,000 in the form of debt on your credit report, so they can drop your score. It also can drop your score because it's a new account. A new account lowers the age of your report. So look at that as a temporary drop. Now, the way to go about getting your score back up is, for one, making on-time payments on that car. Because now, if you have that car and you're making on-time payments, you're increasing your payment history. Over time, you're increasing your credit mix. Over time, net debt is starting to go down. Over time, lowering your debt to income ratio. So the long-term on-time payments can help to boost your score. Outside of that, if you have a credit card will be another way to start building your score. Because if you do have a credit card, you properly managing your credit card is going to be one of your strongest ways to build credit. If you don't have a credit card, you're leaving 165 points on the table. If you do have a credit card, you want to make sure that when they report a very low balance, less than 5%, because that can help to boost your score. If you have low limits on your credit card, anything less than $1,000, then you want to see what you can do to get a higher credit limit so you can tap into getting up to 165 points, because the higher credit limits allow you to tap more into credit utilization of 165 points. Very, very important. So if your score got dropped due to a car loan, then you want to figure out, okay, let me make sure I'm making on-time payments with this car loan. But what other things, like a credit card, can I do to make sure I'm building my credit, strengthening my limits, lowering my utilization, etc. So that way you are in full control of your overall score. But over time, your credit score will bounce back because of the vehicle. Next question. Credit drop after paying off a car or a home. This happens as well. So, have you ever heard of a person's score dropping after they paid off a car or a home? This happens all the time. So if you pay off a car or a home, the credit score can drop, because now it's looking like, okay, this was an account that we're paying on, but now that account no longer exists. So yes, it looks good when you pay it off in a grand scheme of things from a credit report standpoint. However, when you pay it off, it's one less account that's reporting. So now you have an account that's no longer reporting. And if you haven't had anything new going on your profile, it can drop your score. Nothing to be concerned about. Again, it goes back to, if you got a credit card, you can always leverage the credit card strategies to make sure that you're able to keep your score going up by properly utilizing your credit and your credit cards. But paying off a car or a mortgage can drop your score, but it's a temporary drop. And you just want to make sure that you are using lines of credit or credit cards in the right way. And if you're not ready to go into a whole nother debt, get a whole nother card, don't worry about it. Just let time play out and you'll get those scores back up, especially if you use your credit cards properly, keep those balances low, keep those limits going higher depending on, how high your limit is now. You may want to get credit limit increases, and that'll help your score tremendously. Next question. Now we're getting into the disputes, corrections and legal rights. So the next question is, how do I dispute an error on my credit report? So basically, you dispute an error on your credit report primarily by mailing letters. So first you got to discover the error by pulling your reports and seeing what things don't match. An error is something that doesn't match across all three bureaus, if they report to all three bureaus. Some of them only report to one, some report to two, some report to all three. If they report to all three, if you see certain things that don't match, that's an error. So you can dispute it by including it in your letter. There's tons of ways to get letters. Resources down below there to show you how to get letters. But basically, once you find those errors, you include it in your disputes. You're saying, hey, I noticed this is an error. This is affecting my credit. This is the account, yada, yada, yada. It has some other verbiage associated with it. And you mail it. And it could be multiple errors that you discover. All of the errors that you discover, you dispute. Now, if it's like 50, don't do it. But, if it's like 10 or less, include it on the same letter per bureau. Like, only include what's on Experian to send to Experian. Only include what's on Equifax to send to Equifax. Only include what's on TransUnion to send to TransUnion. But you dispute it that way. Simply put, seeing what errors are on there, using the letters, mailing them off. There are other ways to dispute. Yes, you can dispute online, but you got to go about it the right way. It's better to have some type of paper trail, which is why letters are still so powerful, as well as if it came down to like a lawsuit and you could, be entitled to some type of compensation, you having a paper trail is going to be much better than you disputing using their portal that they control. Very important to note. Next question. Should I just jump straight to disputing or follow an order? You definitely want to go into a certain order. A lot of times when people get access to our do-it-yourself credit restoration system, they just want to jump straight to the disputes. I don't need none of that other stuff. I'm going to jump to the disputes. Well, that could be further from the truth. If you understand all of the 5 factors of credit, then you'll understand which areas are applicable to you. So that automatically means that you need to go in some type of order. Finding out what those 5 factors are. So if you know payment history, credit utilization, credit history, credit mix, new credit, you know those things, then you say, oh, okay, these are my areas of strength. These are my areas of weakness. These are my areas I need to focus on in order to strengthen my score to hit my goal. That's going in a specific order. Okay, now I need to find the errors on my report. Now that I've at least pulled my report, reviewed my report, let's see what errors exist. Okay, got the errors. Oh, highlight them. Boom. Now, next, let's include them in the letters. Now that you've included them in the letters, you mail out the letters. Now it's a waiting game. In the midst of waiting, what could you be doing? Getting your credit card balances down. Making sure that if you don't have a credit card, opening your eyes to the potential credit cards that you could open up in order to position yourself to get some lines of credit. You're doing it while you wait. Boom, the letter, you give them the 35 days basically. You refresh your report, see if the things you wanted deleted got deleted or updated to a positive status. If not, next letter goes out. You can rinse and repeat and do the same thing until you reach your desired goal. Be relentless about it. Never give up, never tap out based on whatever your goals are when it comes to disputing. But it's important to follow an order. Absolutely. Next question. What is the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the FDCPA? So the FCRA is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. I said it was supposed to be what is the FCRA. The FCRA is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Basically, these are the guidelines that these consumer reporting agencies are supposed to abide by. Meaning that they're supposed to report things in an accurate manner. That's fair credit reporting. They're supposed to make sure it's not things that are erroneous, outdated, unverifiable on there. That's fair credit reporting. And if they're not doing that, then they have to remove it. So since there are things that they're supposed to abide by, you leverage those laws to your advantage. You find errors, inaccuracies, outdated information, code violations, things of that nature, and they're supposed to remove it. Or they may be liable to compensate you for their FCRA violation. The FDCPA is dealing with debt collectors. FDCPA stands for Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. So what practices are the debt collectors following? They got a rule book to abide by as well, and they violate it often. So the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act is based on the debt collectors and how they operate. So when you see something that may, they're not able to prove why they're trying to collect the debt from you, you send that debt validation letter. That's using the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act to your advantage. So you have these things that are in place to protect you. That's why you shouldn't be fearful or terrified to go against these entities, because these entities have to abide by these rule books. So let's use the book against them in order to enhance your credit knowledge, so then you can apply it and get certain things removed and cleaned up. So FCRA, Fair Credit Reporting Act, FDCPA, Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. Not to be confused with one another. You use them different for different reasons because they are not the same. So sometimes people may give you a letter that was meant for the debt collector, but you might have sent it to Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. You got to know what you're doing and how to determine which code you're using, so that way you use it in a way that is applicable, because they can look at a letter and know that it wasn't meant for them and disregard it because you sent the wrong letter. It was more so for the bureaus versus the debt collector and vice versa. Next question. Okay, I already asked that. Okay. Page 1 out the way. Let's keep going. Under the FCRA, how long does a credit bureau have to respond to a dispute? Typically, 30 days. 30 days is the time frame. If it's dealing with something like identity theft, it's a shorter amount of time. They have like a 4-day window because it's something that's more potent. But typically, 30 days is the time frame that they have to respond to a dispute. Next question. What is the method of verification letter? Great question. So the method of verification letter follows the verification letter. So the verification letter is just you mailing and saying, hey, I see these accounts that you're reporting, these collections, these charge-offs. Please verify this account. Please verify that you have the right to even be reporting this. That's number one. The method of verification is if they claim that it was verified after you sent out the letter and now they say, hey, this is verified. The method of verification letter simply says, hey, what method did you use to verify this account that you're keeping on my report? This is powerful because a good method of verification letter asks them a ton of questions that they're supposed to abide by based on the FCRA. And a lot of times they're not abiding by these questions. And if they're not able to prove it, then they're supposed to remove it. So if they said this was verified, okay, since you verified it, you should be able to easily recall or give me what you used to verify this. In many cases, they can't. So that alone is a powerful letter that has gotten tons of things deleted just using a method of verification. You just simply ask them, what method did you use? Did you pretty much abide by all of these questions? Chances are they did not. And if they did not, then that's another layer to you proving them violating your rights that could lead to some compensation, but more importantly, give you some things that can be deleted. Next question. If a bureau ignores my dispute, can I take legal action? Yes, because they're supposed to go through a proper investigation. Going through a proper investigation includes them contacting you and letting you know, hey, these were the results. This is what happened. If they ignore it, then that's a violation. So yes, you can take legal action, but you can also send a no response letter to apply a little bit more pressure just to prove, hey, I ain't get a response. That no response letter can get things deleted as well, because sometimes they see it and they realize they didn't respond, and now you get things deleted. You can also apply pressure by going to the CFPB. We'll get into that as well, but saying, hey, they didn't do what they were supposed to do in a timely manner, and now things can get deleted as well. So if they do not respond, yes, you can take legal action, and there's other things that you can do in the process. Next question. What are statutory damages under FCRA 1681 and 1681-0? So basically, this is when an entity knowingly and willfully is negligent when it comes to your report. So if they knowingly violated your rights by adding an account that was once removed without you being notified, then that is a violation in that area. And this can entitle you to up to $1,000. That's willfully and negligent. Willful is they knew it and they just did it anyway. Negligent is they just missed the mark. They just kind of disregarded it. Just doing business as usual and then just kind of forgot about it. That's negligent. Either way, it's something that's a violation and can entitle you to up to $1,000. So a lot of these things, they can be held accountable. This is why mailing letters is important, because it gives you a level of rights if it came down to you actually suing versus just doing things all digitally. Very important. Next question. I answered that. Can a credit repair company charge upfront fees? Now, when it comes to a credit repair company, and I own a credit restoration company primarily in education, so the verbiage is different because I'm leading with education, giving them access to tools and resources and portal. But can they charge you upfront fees? How they're supposed to do it is they're supposed to have it going to more so an escrow style account. So typically in the credit repair industry, you're not supposed to charge upfront fees, but you can escrow fees, meaning money goes into an account, it's not used until work is done. Work is done when a person receives some type of level of consultation, some type of analysis about their credit report that gives them details and, teaches them some things that they need to be doing. Work services have been rendered at that point. Letters being mailed out, services have been rendered at that point, and now they can tap into the funds that's in the escrow account. So upfront fees is different, but you should be able to do it in a way that allows that money to go into escrow, and that's how I go about it. The money is not touched until services have been rendered. And now you're able to use the funds because you've provided the services. So if a person is ever asking, hey, you're not supposed to charge up front, yeah, it's a way to do it, But in all actuality, services need to be rendered. And, you got to protect yourself in many different ways. Next question. How do I file a complaint with the CFPB and FTC or the state AG, which is the Attorney General, about credit report issues? So CFPB, you can go to consumerfinance.gov. It's pretty self-explanatory. You go through, file a complaint, and they ask you all the questions you need, and whatever's applicable to you, you can do it. FTC, similar. You go through, you file a complaint, whether it's identity theft or whatever the case may be. It's real cut and dry, but you can just go to, so consumerfinance.gov for the CFPB, and then I think identitytheft.gov for the FTC to file a complaint, and then ask questions that's applicable to you, and you fill it out accordingly. Then when it comes to your state attorney general, you will find whoever the attorney general is in your state. You basically will find their mailing address, and if you want to mail a letter and complain about a particular company that's operating in that state, then you can file a complaint that way. All of these are next level methods to get things deleted, because when it comes to Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, they don't want these big entities in their business knowing that they're not doing things the right way, because they know CFPB will sue, FTC will sue, Attorney General can apply some pressure, even a Better Business Bureau can apply some pressure that they don't necessarily want. So you using these entities to your advantage and having them in your toolbox is important, but you just dispute by going through their site and disputing based on the methods that are laid out. Real simple. But with the Attorney General, you get their address and then you mail the dispute and complain about whatever company it is you have an issue with. Next question. How do I collect on a judgment if I win a credit lawsuit? So if you win a credit lawsuit and you collect on a judgment, typically you've done this through some type of attorney. And if you've done this through some type of attorney, then they'll be able to, collect the funds and then issue out the funds based on your awardings, or it will be directly sent to you based on however you went through the lawsuit, meaning that if they know that there were statutory damages or things of that nature, then you get a check in the mail because they chose to settle in many cases outside of court. And there's different verbiage for it. I'm not a legal attorney. I have a legal team that, I will plug you into if you need those things. However, it's different verbiage associated with it, but you'll get paid based on them knowing that it was damages involved and they don't want to go to the next level. It's not worth it to them, so they'd be better off paying you the $1,000, the $2,500, or whatever it was that, was, accounted for, all because of their violation. So you will get paid. Typically dealing with the attorney, they will handle that process, but most times it will be some type of check that will be issued to you, mailed with top priority that you'll receive in the event that takes place. Next question. What is a willful versus negligent violation under the FCRA? So willful, I talked about this earlier, but willful is they willingly knew that they didn't go through a proper procedure as it relates to your dispute process, and they just allowed that violation to happen anyway. They knew that something got added back to the report that didn't get the proper notification of 5 days with the unlawful reinsertion, and they allowed it to come on your report anyway, and they just, shrugged their shoulders like, oh well, that's willingly allowing a violation to happen. Negligent is just that, they kind of forgot about it. It's just they was doing business as usual. Now it's on your report that we're being negligent. They didn't cross all of their T's, dot all of their I's. That's being negligent. So those are the differences between the two. Now, let's get into some credit repair strategies and best practices. Next question. What steps can I take to raise my credit score quickly in 30 to 90 days? Now, if you have nothing good on your report, meaning that it's nothing but negative, or you just haven't started building credit at all, one of the things you can do is get a credit builder account. One that I'll reference is the self-lender account. I say this because I've used this account to update profiles and get people 100+ point boost just off of this alone. They report to all 3 bureaus, and it's like you're saving money to build credit. You put away $25 a month, that reports to all 3 bureaus as if you made a payment, even though you're just saving it into an escrow account. And now that allows you to build your credit. And this is perfect for a person who has nothing but negatives, or they just, are just getting started. You can also get a secured credit card. This is a credit card. You put the money up. So say you put $500 down to get your credit card started, and now you start using the card, paying it off, using it, paying it off. That helps to build your score in the next 30 or 90 days. Now, if you already have a credit card, and let's just say you had a credit card and decent limit, and you just had a high utilization, 50% or more. Now, what you can do is pay your balances down. So let's get that balance down to 0 or less than 5%. That can boost your score significantly within 30 days. The highest I've seen who've taken the advice of, hey, get that credit card utilization down, was a 300 point boost. It was about 100 points per bureau for a total of 300 points. It was like 301 points. So, it might have been 99 here, 101 there, 100 there, just as an example. But that was able to boost their score significantly. There are other things, but just to keep it simple, opening up a new account if need be, getting a new credit card added to your account if you have no credit cards if need be, or if you already have a credit card, getting that utilization down will boost your score quickly. That's one of the fastest ways that could boost your score up to 165 points per bureau. Let's keep going. Next question. Is paying off collections helpful even if not removed? Now, paying off a collection is not recommended. I will say this, that if you pay off a collection and it shows paid in the profile, some entities will look at that like, okay, it's at least paid. That's that. However, a paid collection still remaining on your profile still is damaging your score, about 100 points. So it's not recommended. It's better to dispute it, find the errors, the inaccuracies, the code violations, and get it deleted that way. So it is still negatively impacting your score. But if you pay it, then you didn't get anything in writing that said they were going to delete it or remove it, then you've done yourself a disservice. So paying it and it not being removed, you just almost wasted money, pretty much, because they didn't remove it. It's still showing up as a very negative thing. It shows that you even had an account that went to the collection. And even though it might say paid, if they do even do that, because sometimes they just collect and just leave it as is, if they even choose to do that, then, it still can have a huge negative impact. So it's not recommended, not good, and it still can negatively impact your score, even though it's quote unquote paid. Next question. What is pay for delete, and is it legal? Yes, it's legal, and usually this is a good option. Last case scenario typically, but pay for delete is basically an account that might have got closed, might not even gone to collection status. They might be still being taken care of in-house, meaning the bank is still covering it, but it's a negative impact on your score due to the fact that it was closed and it has all of these late payments associated with it, which are dinging your score as well. So if you're not able to get it removed using errors, inaccuracies, code violations, things of that nature, then pay for delete allows you to say, okay, let's negotiate. It shows I owe $2,000. If I pay $800, will you accept that? And if so, will you be willing to remove it? In some cases, they will, because it's better than nothing. And sometimes they'll accept much less. You just have to be willing to negotiate, but get something in writing that says that they're going to delete it. This is the pay for delete letter, available in, some of the resources as well. But this is the pay for delete letter. That pay for delete letter says that they're going to remove it if you pay. So now you at least have something that you can hold them accountable on if they do not remove it. If you just pay it and assume they're going to delete it, no bueno, no good. That's not a good idea. But if you get something in writing, you can use that to your advantage. So pay for delete letter is effective. Usually a last case scenario, see if you can get it deleted prior to, but it's not illegal. Next question. Where am I? Should I negotiate with creditors or go through brokers? Great question. You can go directly through creditors if you want to negotiate, because you went directly through them when you set up the account. So why can't you go directly through them with the negotiation? Now, make sure you're putting yourself in the best case scenario, but going through brokers is just adding an extra middleman. Now, sometimes, some of them, depending on you and your confidence level, you might feel as though they'll be better off to communicate with them than you. But if you went into the initial agreement with them, then I highly recommend that you do what it takes to figure out what you can negotiate directly through them and be relentless. Don't give up. And, see what you can get accomplished if need be. Now, sometimes it's not a matter of going directly through them. You're going through and disputing with Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Getting your credit profile cleaned up because they're the ones who house the information. And you could use that to your advantage. But, yes, you can go directly through the creditors because you went directly through them when you applied or opened up whatever account, depending on your situation. Next question. How does adding an authorized user help or hurt my score? Now, adding an authorized user. Okay, so let's do it from this angle. Adding an authorized user, or somebody adding you as an authorized user, can help your score, especially if you need some things like a line of credit to report on your profile and you have none. Or if you had somebody that you were connected to, preferably a family member, a parent, a grandparent, whomever, they have great credit, they add you as an authorized user, they don't even have to issue you out a card, and now you benefit off their good payment history and their good credit utilization. That can boost your score. Many parents do it for their kids, and now they have a 700 plus credit score early on just because they were added as an authorized user. The second part of the question says, how can this hurt the score? Just like it can benefit you if they have good payment history and low balances, it can also negatively impact you if they have high credit utilization and they miss some payments. So it's very important to make sure that it's somebody who's very, very responsible long-term with their credit, because there is a time where you may want to get removed as an authorized user due to the fact that, hey, they dropped the ball or they fell into some situations and now their negative history and utilization is affecting you. This is why I stress the importance of you becoming the authorized user, you having great credit, you doing certain things that position you to get higher credit limits and higher credit cards, so you're not just having to depend on someone else. That could also come into times where it's not favorable for you to be added as an authorized user on their account. So yes, it can be beneficial, but it can also be detrimental depending on the situation. But it's better for you to come in that authorized user so you can be the person who's in control of your score, not just depending on someone else. Next question. No, not there. All right. What are seasoned trade lines or piggybacking, and are they legal? Now, I'm not going to say they're illegal. It's frowned upon. Banks are starting to know. But piggybacking and seasoned, what did they call it? Seasoned trade lines? Yes, seasoned trade lines are basically you paying to be added as an authorized user on someone else's account. Notice when I said doing the authorized user play, I recommended being a family member, somebody that you know and trust and things of that nature. Because you can pay to be added on someone's seasoned trade line or piggybacking, and it will have the same impact on your score because, they have a good seasoned account and that account can help you get that boost. However, banks are starting to know, hold on, they have this account, but everything else on that report is slaw. They got all these collections, these charge, all things of that nature. Is this truly a reflection of them, or did they just piggyback off somebody else's credit report? So that's why it's frowned upon, because truth be told, it can put you in a position, if you're not the type that has been able to make on-time payments, keep low utilization, you get added as a piggyback off of somebody else's good, credit profile. Now you get qualified for this account, this new account that you qualify for. Do you have what it takes to make on-time payments over time, long term? Do you have what it takes to keep the utilization low if necessary? I don't know, because you haven't necessarily built up the habits to maintain that. So that's why it's important for you to do things that help strengthen your habits so that you become the authorized user, the person who has the quality account, and you can maintain it because you've developed the habits. So yes, you can do it with those seasoned accounts, but And yes, it is legal, but it could be detrimental if you don't develop yourself, your own habits on making sure that you can maintain that type of account. And it happens all the time. People talk about what all they got approved for, all this funding they got, but they don't tell you the backside of what they weren't able to handle because they took a shortcut, another route to try to get more funding, more capital, and dug a deeper hole. Happens all the time. Next question. Is it okay to close old credit accounts? Now, it depends on the situation. Sometimes it can make sense to close accounts, but typically as if it's like a burden on your profile, or they got excess fees and you got some other things that can offset it. But typically it's not recommended because those old accounts are contributing to your credit age. And if you close it, now you just closed off. It's similar to a person who might pay off a car. You just closed off an open account that had some time or some season to it. Now it's closed. Now it no longer exists. So you lose that age associated with it, and you lose something that had so much season, so much depth, so much wisdom built in it just because you close it. So it's typically not recommended. Keep it open. Keep a good relationship with them. Keep making on-time payments, using and things of that nature versus just closing it, unless it's something that's very detrimental about it that gives you a reason and you have some other accounts that offset it to where it's no big deal if you do decide to close it. But typically, it's not a good idea. I need to start checking these off because I'm losing my place. All right, now, I did that. All right, how many new credit applications, hard pulls, should I make each year? This is dependent on your goals. This is totally dependent on your goals. I'm not here to tell you how many, because some people, they apply for 10 of them within the same day just to get approval for a lot of things. But they might not touch it for years because they were able to do enough in that one sitting to get multiple accounts. So I'm not here to tell you how many you should have. It's just a matter of get what you can manage. Only take on what you can manage. If you cannot manage it, do not take it on. If that's one, if that's none, act accordingly. If that's 5, if that's 9, act accordingly. Only take on what you can handle. Otherwise, you put yourself in a predicament. You apply, got approved for so many things, but you couldn't handle $100,000 worth of a line of credit, $50,000 of debt. You weren't ready for that just yet. So only take on what you can handle, or you can strengthen or build yourself to be able to handle. So that's up to you. That's the only one I'm not going to answer. I'm going to leave that up to you, but hopefully I gave you a clue. Should I use all credit cards or keep minimal activity? Great question. So I recommend or suggest, or if it was me, whatever the verbiage is, that you use all of the credit cards. Use them, pay them off. Use them, pay them off. Because you don't want to get to a place to where you are not using them and they just close it just due to limited use. Now, if you haven't used it in months, but then you use it again, it's usually not that big of a deal. But I'm talking about like long stretches. But using it, and even if it's using it minimal, then cool. But if you make some decent purchases on there, then it proves that they know that, okay, they're using this card. You don't want them to lower your limits either just because they see lack of use. So get in the habit of using it, but, make sure that you're doing it in a strategic way to where you're not overusing it or putting yourself, biting off more than you could chew. Basically, you use it so much to where now it's carrying a high balance or high utilization and affecting your credit score in that angle. But definitely use it so they don't close it or lower your limits thinking that you do not need it or want it. Great question. Next question. How can I rebuild credit from zero after bankruptcy? Great question. So you're treating this like a person who is just starting off building their credit altogether. A self-lender account or any other type of credit builder account. There are tons out there now. Self-lender allows you to save money and build credit, meaning you don't have to get into debt or borrow money. You put $25 a month away, they report to all 3 bureaus, it benefits you. There are tons of other ones out there. I'm just going to list that one. So I'm not, here to say that there are not dozens and dozens, but that's just one. A credit builder card, some type of secure credit card. It should be a link down below for that, but basically it allows you to start establishing a line of credit with you paying your own money down versus applying and seeing what you can get approved for. This helps strengthen your score because you open up a line of credit. But the good uses of that card positions you to then later be able to apply for a credit card, and that can really expedite the growth of your score once you apply and get approved for a credit card. So if you do those two things, you'll be well on your way. But if you are in position to do something like reporting your rent, that can start helping building and boosting your score, because now you got a good track record of on-time payments with your rent. It starts reporting. Sometimes they can go back 2 years. Sometimes the utility bills play a part. But all of these things stack on top of each other to build your credit profile up to where the bankruptcy is just a part of your history, but it's not the finite definition of your capabilities, who you are, what you're able to do. So you want to make sure that you prove, okay, yeah, I had that hiccup, but I'm able to build, and now I'm able to bounce back and have my credit better than ever. I also usually suggest for people when they're going through bankruptcy, hey, you still need to be restoring your credit. You still need to be doing things that's building your credit. You still need to be doing certain things that position you to bounce back from this situation by making sure you got positivity reporting, not just holding on to this bankruptcy as if it's the end of the world. So yes, you should, and those are some things that you can do when it relates to bankruptcy. Next question: does paying late bills slowly help more than leaving them? Does paying late bills slowly help more than leaving them? Not sure I understand that question. I wish I would have read that and better understood it, but sounds like they were asking, does paying bills late slowly help more than just leaving them alone? As long as you, if that's the case, say they're asking, does paying bills late, is that better than just not paying them at all, just leaving them alone? As long as you can avoid the account getting into a collection or a charge-off status, late payments, yes, they have a negative impact, but it's not as bad as letting that account go to a collection or a charge-off status. That said, you still want to try to clean up the late payment. Find out if it's a billing error. See if you can submit a goodwill letter, basically saying, hey, I fell on certain tough times and this is why they happened. I trust and honor our relationship. Can you remove the late payments? You do want to still get to a place to where once you know you're back making on-time payments, you try to get the late payment removed. But if you can keep it from going to a collection or a charge-off status, yes, paying the bill, even if it's late, is better than just leaving the debt alone altogether. I believe that might have been what they was asking. Next question: how does debt consolidation or balance transfer card affect credit? So debt consolidation and a balance transfer are two totally different things, unless you're thinking about using a credit card as a form of a consolidation. Now, with a debt consolidation, you got to be careful, because typically with a debt consolidation, you may take a loan and let that loan cover all of your debt. So say you qualify for a $20,000 loan, and that'll help pay for your credit cards, some of your whatnot personal loans, and things of that nature. Now what you effectively did was take these credit cards, and yeah, you might have a lower interest rate with this loan, and you have one payment, but if you pay off your credit cards with this loan, now you still got this credit card, and now it's fully available, zero balance, and you had the ability to spend on that credit card because now you just paid it off. You can end up digging a deeper hole. So you got to be careful, because say for example you had a $5,000 credit card that you paid off using this debt consolidation loan, and now you're like, let me spend this credit card, I'm gonna pay it right off, and now you done ran the $5,000 back up, but you still ain't done paying this loan. So now you got the $5,000 credit card, but you still got the loan that you paid it off with, and now you done dug a deeper hole. So now you got both. So that's why you got to be careful with the debt consolidation. Not that it can't work, it's just that you have to develop the discipline in order to make sure that it works effectively. Now, balance transfer, same thing. You get a new card, has a zero balance, zero interest rate, basically for the next, let's say 15 months, because that's sometimes how they do. 15, 18 months, it'd be different time frames. And then you take that balance that was on this card, transfer it over here, because you're not paying interest on it. And they'll charge their fees, but you're not paying interest on it. So you're like, nah, I can, pay it off, and all my money going to be going to paying it off versus going to interest. Same thing. Yes, they can work. Yes, they can be effective, but we know from personal experience that You see that card that ain't got nothing on it, you might be more tempted to use it. And now you use that card, and now you got double debt. One that's accruing interest, one that's still under the 0% interest, but eventually that's going to time out. And if it times out, boom, the interest rate kicks on. They make money off of the money that's still on there in the form of a balance. You still got the balance over here, so you can put yourself in a situation. Yes, they can work, but discipline is highly mandatory in this situation, and I wouldn't be doing you any service if I didn't tell you that. So just keep that in mind if you're ever considering debt consolidation or balance transfer. Discipline is going to be required 100%. Next question. What is credit mix, and should I have both revolving and installment debt? Credit mix is pretty much just answered in the question. A combination of different, it's like diversifying your credit profile. You want to say that you have the ability to pay off loans or mortgages or auto loans, but also can you handle a credit card with your revolving debt? That's credit mix. Should you have both? Yes, because it helps give you a holistic score, and a holistic score helps you maximize your points. Yes. Next question. When is it better to wait than to take aggressive repair steps? So sometimes, people want to jump the gun and like, I need my credit A1 right now. So they get to apply for as many things as possible. And now they apply for all of these different things and they drop their credit age, or they got all these inquiries now. Versus had they took their time and realized, okay, they already have credit cards. It's just a matter of paying them off the right way. Then that's a form of waiting. You're not trying to rush and aggressively get something new. You're taking what you have already working for you and using it to your advantage. Now, sometimes people might also aggressively try to get things removed, and they might take illegal measures in order to get them removed. It was a big time frame, and some people still do it now, where they're doing like sex trafficking, filing that, and getting things removed fast because they're saying they're a victim of sex trafficking. So they're taking aggressive measures in order to get things deleted. When that could put you in a predicament, because that is not what that law was intended for. If a person was truly a victim of that, okay, by all means, use that to your advantage. But if you're just leveraging it because you found it or you heard somebody talking about it, then that's aggressively taking action versus just waiting and being patient and doing what's necessary to strategically boost your score and take full control of your report. So it's times where you want to make sure you apply pressure, but it's other times that you don't want to jump through hoops and measures and do things that are unlawful, illegal, and all the things that people do in order to better your credit. Very important. All right, we're done with that shit. Still got more to go. Next question. Now this is for, I'm going to talk briefly to the people who might have a credit business or do credit education and they're helping people. So I'm going to brush through these, but I'm going to be, thorough at the same time. What credentials or certifications should a credit repair consultant have? And this is important for anybody, even if you're not a credit repair consultant or, credit restoration company, because you need to know what to expect. So what certifications or credentials should a credit repair consultant have? Now, sometimes you might see these people that got these credit repair certificates and these credentials. A lot of that is just paper, just like a lot of these diplomas are paper. What you should be looking for is their credentials in terms of their credibility, the value that they give you. Do they help you even before you invest in working with them? Before you invest the dime in working with them, are they helping you with their free information? That's a level of a credential. Do they have any success stories or testimonies? Are they sharing success of things being deleted, things being updated, things of that nature? Then yes, that's a form of credibility. Not some piece of paper, true education that you apply, even if they never knew that you applied it and you realize, oh, what they said was of value. That should heighten up the level of credentials in your eyes, because they've proven themselves by their information even before you made any investments. And the same is true with the testimonies. They're proven, they're not a stranger to getting things deleted, getting things updated, helping people out, doing things that provide value to a broad stream of people. They're showing up every day, educating every day, not hiding behind these, avatars or pages. That's a form of credentials and credibility. So those are the things you should look for, not just this paper, because anybody can come up with some type of program, print off a paper and say, hey, I'm certified in this. And some people buy into it, but don't be fooled, because there's a lot of fake ones out here that has these credit repair degrees. And no, this is fabricated. It's something they just made up. A lot of it is, BS, to say the least. Next question. Now, if you do have a credit restoration business, you want to be bonded and follow the rules and the guidelines in your state, things of that nature. But in terms of those credentials and certificates, don't be fooled. All right, what is a fair pricing model for credit repair services? Now, to each his own. It's people who charge $5,000 and, can they justify the price? Absolutely. People who charge less than they should, $79 a month. Should they charge more? Possibly. So to each his own on the price points. But what I want you to understand that credit restoration is an investment. So yes, a person better in their credit, it might save them $10,000 plus on the next vehicle they buy. Was it worth the $1,000 investment then? Absolutely. A person who invests in credit restoration, they might have paid, let's say they paid $2,000, but it saved them $100,000 on their home because now they pay less in interest. Was that a good investment? Was that worth the $2,000? Absolutely. So it's all relative to the individual and how they'll benefit and leverage their credit. But you just got to understand that credit restoration is an investment because it saves you money on the back end once you have better credit and you're able to pay lower interest rates. That might save you hundreds of thousands of dollars when it comes to making your upcoming purchases. Next question. What services should a credit repair business legally offer? So education, for one, definitely you want to be educating the client. If you make disputes on their behalf, which you can legally do, sending off letters and things of that nature, then that's definitely something that should be offered. That way they're disputing, using the codes and the laws to your advantage, things of that nature. That's definitely something they should be doing, and then giving you guidance, looking at your report and saying, hey, these are some things that you can consider doing based on this formula that we're trying to hit. So those are just some simple things that they could and should be doing. Not lying or fabricating or making these bold statements and bold claims or guarantees, not that, but just providing education, providing a service, and also providing guidance. Put that all together and you can help, get a holistic score just off of that alone. Next question. How do you onboard clients and gather their credit documents? You should have a software, some type of tool in order to do that. That way their information is protected. They're notified when disputes and things have gone out, and they have a way to ask questions throughout the process. I'm going to keep these brief because I want to get to some of the next ones. And, it's going to help the person who's trying to do it or figure it out themselves. But if your person is trying to better their credit and launch their own credit business, I provide all of these tools and how to access them so you can leverage it, make money, and do business with integrity. All right, how much client involvement is required? What they must do themselves. So the person has to set that expectation in the beginning. Typically, I tell people, hey, ask as many questions as you need to, but these are your responsibilities. It's on you to pay bills on time, not apply for things, keep your utilization low. My responsibility is to look at your report in details and the disputes, give you guidance, and then every month look at your reports and see what changes have been made and adjust accordingly. So that can happen, to where a person might not talk but once a month. A person might have questions more often than that, and they're talking weekly. But the fact of the matter is, it's all relative, but you do want to make sure if you're communicating with clients that you're touching them enough and letting them know that they can reach out to you and ask questions throughout the whole duration. So that way they know they have somebody that is working in a team effort to help better their credit. It's a team effort. A certain amount of things they need to do, a certain amount of things you need to do. Together, you can make magic. Next question. How much or how to scale a credit repair business without becoming non-compliant? It's about not making guarantees and lying and doing certain things that just, seem like it's too good to be true, so to speak. So it's just about operating with integrity. Simply put, all about integrity, and then making sure you understand the rules of what you should and should not do. Not lying or denying anything when it comes to disputes, using errors, inaccuracies, code violations to your advantage, making sure you're protected from an entity standpoint. Do you have the proper bonding, based on a surety bond, based on what is required in your state? So doing these things are keeping you in compliance, but getting a coach, some guidance, somebody that can help you through that process is going to be key. Because if you're just trying to wing it and figure it out yourself, then you're bound to make some mistakes that could put you in the category of being incompliant. Next question. What marketing claims are illegal? Talked about that. Guarantees, promises, etc. All of those things are illegal, frowned upon. Do not do it. Next question. How do I protect my credit business from lawsuits and complaints. You do it by operating with integrity. You do it by making sure you're following the rules and following the guidance, and having you some type of coach or mentor that can assist you, and having you a property surety bond that can protect you up to a certain amount in the event that you needed protection. So those are some of the things that you'll do in order to make sure you're on point. Is wholesaling or affiliate credit repair a thing? Basically, referrals. Yes. You can get referral fees if you communicate with somebody who's doing credit restoration. Me personally, for certain people who become affiliates, I pay a $50 referral fee. That is a thing. That's basically a form of marketing. It's part of the marketing budget. I can't reach everybody. You might know some people who could benefit from the information I have. You refer them to me. If you're an affiliate, I pay you a $50 referral fee. They get their credit restoration service. It takes nothing away from them. And now you're incentivized to want to tell more people so they can get access to the service. And I'm incentivized because it's a form of marketing. Word of mouth marketing is a key piece to the puzzle. So referrals and affiliates is word of mouth marketing. So yes, it's a great strategy. It's a tax deduction for me if I pay you a referral fee, and it's income and cash flow to you. So it's a win-win scenario. Next question is, when should a credit business collaborate with attorneys? If you a credit repair business, if you can get collaborated with an attorney as soon as possible, the sooner the better. But you want to vet the attorney and, see if they can handle the workload, or see if you had the ability to communicate with them on a regular basis. But having an attorney in your toolbox is key, because you're dealing with codes and statutes and things of that nature. When you're dealing with the Fair Credit Reporting Act, this is law and different things, legal terms that they can decipher a little bit better. So having them in your toolbox or warehouse of people that you can reach out to and contact makes you more powerful, puts you in a position of being able to better serve your clients. So the sooner you can get with that, the better. If you come through my tutelage or coaching, then I can plug you directly into the legal team that has been responsible for helping get over $20 million in basically awardings for FCRA violations that they were able to discover. You get directly access to them. So you should do that as soon as possible, because it just strengthens your brand and your deliverables and what you're able to do. Next question. What are the risks of automating dispute systems? Basically, template and things of that nature. If a person is using automated disputes, then it's a chance that it's going to be the same dispute letters going out. And if thousands of people are sending this out, then they have that system that's detecting this the same, this the same, this the same, this the same. And sometimes they might, not take it as, they take it as frivolous. Basically, a frivolous dispute that they're just saying these templates floating around versus some originals. So I always try to shift up my letters and make adjustments, because I help people out, and sometimes they may get access to the letters, but I want my letters to stay fresh, my verbiage, the things that I add, the clauses, some of the fine print, things of that nature, so that way it's, staying on the fresh end and not just taking an automated approach. Yes, some automation is great, but you want to position yourself to make sure that you're not doing yourself a disservice by automating everything, and now they're getting the same letters over and over and over again. Next question. Let's get down to some of these cases in advance. Question. This one says, can immigration status or visa holders get credit repair help? Absolutely. Because when it comes to, people who got visas, especially right now, they got the H-1B visas. I might be saying HB1. H-1B, one of them. They got the visas of the immigrants who are here. If they have a tax ID number, then they can leverage credit. They have some type of number that allows them to leverage credit, then yes, they can leverage credit, which means they can also benefit from credit repair. So this information could be applicable to them as well. Next question. What happens to credit when you delete or freeze your credit file? So nothing happens to the credit. What you're doing is trying to keep people from being able to pull your report. So if you freeze the secondary bureaus are like the LexisNexis, Innovis, SageStream, ARS, tons of them, 50 plus. But you freezing them, you're trying to keep them from sharing all of your data. All of this data that they're sharing is just flipping and reselling, and you're trying to keep them out of your business, basically. So you freeze them as often as, you freeze them when you can. And basically it's as simple as going to their site, select and freeze. And sometimes you can do it online. Sometimes you have to mail a letter, but the instructions are there per the site you're trying to freeze. So if you're trying to go to LexisNexis, you go to LexisNexis.com. You go to CoreLogic. I believe CoreLogic and LexisNexis, they partnered up. You go to CoreLogic and you freeze it. Or they may have you to send a letter. But freezing it is just basically keeping them from being able to just share your information willy-nilly. Freezing your Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion is making it so that when people try to, do a soft pull or see what they can qualify you for, they're not able to pull your report because you got them frozen. Then you can go in and just unfreeze it in the event that you needed it. So say you had it frozen and you're like, all right, I think I'm ready to pay for this car. Let me unfreeze Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, and now you're able to benefit from still using your credit, but you had it frozen, so no other entities were able to just pull your report and see what was going on. So that's that. Next question. Does closing a credit card with a zero balance ever help? No, I wouldn't recommend closing a credit card in general, but it has a zero balance. Why would you close it? That you're benefiting off of having great utilization, which is low. Now, you still want to use the card and pay it off, but a zero balance and you close the account and it was all, you just stripped yourself of having low utilization. So say you had more than one credit card and you tried to cancel the one that had the zero utilization. So say you had a $10,000, let's just say you had two $10,000 credit cards. One of them had a little balance on it. Let's say it was 10% utilized, so it was $1,000 on it. The other one was the $0 balance. You closed that account. Now you went from having a line of credit of $19,000, the $10,000 plus the $1,000 that was on the $10,000 card that gave you 10% utilization, so you had 90% available to spend. So you had $19,000 of available spend. You closed one card and now you got $9,000. So you took your $20,000 total credit limit to $10,000 just like that. That's a detriment move for your score. So in many cases, it's important to keep your accounts open because you can lose the access to capital that you have, and that affects your score. Great question. Next question. What's the impact of medical debt on credit? Now, this is starting to be one of those things that's getting adjusted because the medical debt should not be reported based on my personal opinion. And they're starting to understand that a person having medical debt on their report is not a true example of their ability to pay or not pay, because many times you didn't apply for that debt. It was a situation that happened that led to you having a medical expense or debt, on your credit report. But it wasn't like you applied for a vehicle or applied for a credit card and you just didn't agree. No, this was a detrimental situation in some kind of way. The insurance might not have done what it needed to do, and now it looks like you owe someone when you really don't, and now they report that on your profile. I know this personally from a situation. So that being said, you understanding medical debt, yes, it can have a negative impact. It can show up like a collection. It can affect your debt to income ratio, all of those things. But sometimes you're able to get them removed because of the laws that are changing. Then if some of your information was exposed, like with the HIPAA law, and they see your personal information, you can use that to get, things deleted. And a lot of people don't know this, but if you pay for medical related things on your credit card, it's some ways that you can get some things cleaned up, leveraging that as well. The fact that you use your credit card for some type of medical expense could possibly help you get certain accounts deleted just because it has some type of medical expense associated with it. I'm gonna leave you at that and give you, something that you can research and go down that rabbit hole. Next question: how to dispute items after they are too old? Basically, they're beyond the statute of limitation. Now, the statute of limitation varies based on state and based on the account type in that state. But simply put, you would get a dispute letter that basically says, hey, this is an outdated account. If it's multiple, hey, these accounts are outdated, please remove them from my credit report. So pretty much you're just using a letter like you typically would, but make sure it includes the verbiage associated with outdated accounts being beyond, whatever the statute of limitation is. And truth be told, the statute of limitation is the time frame that they have to actually sue and collect on that debt. An outdated account is an account that is beyond whatever the 7 years is, and it's just still reporting. So you say, hey, this account is outdated, dispute it directly with anybody who's reporting it, whether it's Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, and now you get a delete based on the fact that, hey, this is outdated. So hopefully that helps. Next question: can accurate information ever be expunged via legal methods. Yes. So if it's accurate, that doesn't mean there's not any errors on there. That doesn't mean there's not any code violations, meaning that some about your rights were violated. So don't get it confused. So yes, you can use different codes, violations, errors to have that information taken off. Even if it was accurate, just because you had the account doesn't mean that they didn't drop the ball somewhere else that you can use to your advantage and get it deleted depending on what it was. Great question. Next question. What credit report scams should I watch out for? Anything posing as a site trying to collect your money, you just gotta, I can't even pinpoint all of the scams, but anytime they're calling you and asking you for information and you didn't contact them first, then it's a potential scam. All of these text messages you receive and say, hey, this Wells Fargo account or this account, and they're trying to get you to click a link. Stay away from those. Anything that's sending you a link via email, via text, if you didn't request this or you wasn't in the system and it automatically sent it based on something you initiated, stay away. Anything that they're contacting you and you didn't initiate it might be scammy. It just might be, unless you understand or know who it is you're dealing with. If you know it's your bank, that's different. And, it initiated because they were looking out for you and they contacted you trying to prevent fraud. But anything sending you random links, stay away. Anything that's just contacting you and you didn't do the initiating, stay away, because it could have scam potential. Any certain things that even come in the mail that's posed as trying to do you a favor, lend you money, could be some scam associated because they know a person may be desperate, may want the money, and they want you to call, contact, apply. Could be some scammy stuff associated with that. Even some of these debt settlement programs, I consider that to be potentially scammy because they cause your credit to go down the drain even more due to the fact that they want you to stop paying everything so they can then start negotiating on the back end. Well, now you create a collection charge-off. All of these things, credit ended up being worse than what it was, just so you can try to negotiate on the back end, which is something I could have did on the front end. I consider that to be scammy as well, but that's just me. Next question. How do joint accounts or co-signed loans affect credit reports? So joint accounts affect both parties that are included. Co-signed accounts affect both parties that are included. Prime example for me, when I was younger, my brother co-signed for me a vehicle, and he had good credit and was able to, have co-sign for me, so I didn't have to put any money down. But I was responsible for the insurance, the loan, all of those things. It benefited him because I was making on-time payments, and it was also a form of me respecting the fact that he applied for me. Was a co-applicant, but I benefited as well because I was able to get access to a vehicle or a loan that I wouldn't qualify for because I didn't have anything. And now my on-time payments was helping to strengthen my score, strengthen my credibility off of the fact that he initially was the co-applicant. So it benefited both of us. Then eventually I was ready for a different car. I said, I'm going to get a different car. Did a trade-in, got a brand new car, and just my name only. He didn't have anything to do with that. So now it was like I was growing my own wings and building my credit profile versus leveraging his. And it was a win-win scenario. I didn't burn no bridge. Me and Big Bro, A1, since day one, we all good. So that's the benefit. With couples, same thing. If both parties are on the accounts, then both benefit. But both can be at the detriment if one person or the other is not doing what they need to do. So if I wouldn't have been paying on time, then that would have been a negative reflection on me, but also a negative reflection on him, and they would have came after him because he was the one that co-signed and he had more credibility, so it would have been very detrimental. Same with joint accounts. If one person is not doing what they need to do, it could be detrimental to the couple if both names are on there. So you make sure that whatever you do, credit-wise, you don't just automatically assume a person is going to do their part. Or if you do co-sign or go joint, just know that those are the risks that are involved. Part of the game, but that's the pros and the cons to that. Next question. Credit after divorce. What happens to shared accounts? And it's interesting because I've been getting a lot of divorced individuals, I'll say, who have been seeking credit restoration and they're trying to bounce back, So I know that is a big need. So let me rephrase that question and make sure I answer it thoroughly because somebody's going to really need this. Credit after divorce. What happens to shared accounts? So shared accounts can still take place, just like I said before. If both parties are still on the account, even though you're divorced, they're still affected by it. So if it was a credit card and both names are on there, if that person stopped paying the bill, it's going to negatively impact. If they continue to pay the bills, then it's going to positively impact, and vice versa. That's the fact. But when it comes to credit after divorce, you still want to make sure you're doing things individually from that point forward to make sure that you're on point with building credit for yourself. And if that includes getting yourself removed from the joint accounts, do what you got to do so you can make sure you protect your personal credit. Because sometimes people ask, hey, we're married, so, do we both need credit repair? Well, you both got separate tax ID numbers, both got separate Social Security numbers, so your scores are going to be different. However, sometimes you might have accounts that benefit both. You still need your own individual status because you got your own individual numbers, tax ID, Social Security number. So you still got to work on yourself. But after divorce, you definitely want to be building on yourself, and then possibly even removing yourself from certain accounts if you understand that you may need to do that. And if you know, you know. If you know, I need to remove myself because this could be very ugly, then definitely do it. And make sure you're building for yourself in the process as well. Next question. Can creditors report in bankruptcy differently in different states? Yes, just because creditors can report differently in the same state. They can just report differently just because that's just the nature of the fact that a lot of times the way that they report is inconsistent. It might just have some differences. But if it reports differently in different states, anything that shows up on your report that's not matching can still be leveraged as an error on your credit report. So yes, it can report differently based on their reporting methods and measures, but that doesn't mean that it cannot benefit you if something doesn't line up. Hopefully that answers that question. Next question. What is reaffirmation? That's how it's spelled. Reaffirmation agreement in bankruptcy and its credit impact. So basically, reaffirmation agreement says that opting out of bankruptcy for certain accounts. So say you filed a bankruptcy and you want to tap into the reaffirmation, however it's pronounced, agreement. And say you filed a bankruptcy, but you didn't want to include your home or car. Typically, it happens with those type of accounts. You can say, hey, even though this bankruptcy is being filed, I don't want to include my car in it or the home in it. I want to pay that as I originally agreed to pay it. I want to pay the mortgage, same way I was going to pay it. Pay the car, same way I was going to pay it. So the bankruptcy took place, but it just didn't include those things. That's pretty much what that agreement states. That way, you still have some things that you are paying that could be building your credit, strengthening your credit, proving your credibility. But the bankruptcy is affecting all of the other things. So that's all it is, just removing the things that you don't want to be included in the bankruptcy and still keeping that agreement with that original creditor that you went into the agreement with. Next question. Can you prepare credit from overseas, when abroad, or out of the country? Yes, you will be pulling your report because it's all digital. But when it comes to the dispute process, with you being out of overseas and out of the country, just to make sure you are on point with the dispute process and when things need to be redisputed and things of that nature, you may want to have at least boots on the ground. Basically, have something or entity or somebody who's here reporting or doing the disputes on your behalf while you're out of town. That way, everything is on point from a time standpoint. Once it reaches these 35 days, boom, you got letters going out right away versus trying to do it all the way from overseas, and that can get hectic. So have boots on the ground, but yes, you can do it. You just want to have some assistance when doing it while you're overseas. Next question. How often should I pull my credit report during repair? During repair, every 30 days is fine. Really 35 days. If you're working with me, every 35 days, I don't want you to pull it prematurely because I need to know that when I update on the 35 days, I need to be able to see what changes have been made. If the changes I wanted to be made were made, then great. We keep it moving into the next part of the process. If they were not, then great. We'll keep applying pressure in the areas that didn't get exactly what we need accomplished accomplished. So every 35 days, you don't want to just be pulling it just to pull it. Now, certain sites that's going to update you on a regular basis, it's okay for you to look at them apps. But whatever credit monitoring we're using, then don't update that until every 35 days. And typically, I may be the one that's updating it and seeing what changes have been made so I can give you an update, some guidance, etc. But every 35 days during credit restoration, it's especially if you're working with me. All right, we're getting down to the nitty gritty. Next question, should I freeze my credit or only place a fraud alert? So freezing it is if, you're just trying to freeze it and you're not trying to allow people to pull from Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. You're just freezing it. And this ain't referring to the secondary bureaus. Putting a fraud alert is if you are worried that, it might be some fraud taking place. Somebody tried to open things in your name. That's two totally different things. So if you suspect that, put a fraud alert on there. So that way, you put entities on notice. But if you're just trying to freeze it just for the sake of you don't want any extra offers or them just being able to soft pull your report, you're trying to protect your data from that angle, by all means freeze it. And then if you feel like you needed to use it, unfreeze it and do what you need to do. Next question, how to handle identity theft or mixed credit files during credit repair? Two different questions again. Identity theft, you handle it by going through identity theft with our gov. They have some places, some things that you can tap into to benefit from that site. But in many cases, if you're a victim of identity theft, you can get things deleted in as little as 4 days, 7 days, or if you're a part of a data breach, meaning your information was included in certain data breaches, you can use that same type of rule to get things deleted faster, because it's a rule inside of the FCRA that speaks on the identity theft and how if a person is a victim of that, as long as they follow the proper procedures, then they can get things deleted expeditiously because somebody used their identity or they had their accounts modified without their approval. That's identity theft by modification. Somebody modified the account, made certain changes that you weren't aware of. That's another form of it, and it can be deleted faster. And this is through going through identitytheft.gov, the FTC, having some type of report, that you get generated based on going through that process. But it can get things deleted faster, but you just want to use it accordingly. Don't overutilize that method. You want to use it accordingly and strategically. Next question. Last question. Does paying off a debt with settlement produce a negative mark? So basically, if this is a debt and you decided to settle that debt, does that produce a negative mark? When done appropriately, no, it can actually benefit you. But what you're doing is you're saying, hey, I'm willing to pay this amount if you do what I want you to do. So if you update this to a positive status with no late payments, then that can benefit you. If you delete this account as, then that can benefit you. If you update it as paid as agreed, and that can benefit you. So it has to be some type of clause, some type of agreement, something else that you put in place to make sure that they do their part versus you just paying and you got nothing in writing and you didn't benefit from the settlement because nothing changed about your credit profile to help prove that your payment being made was also a direct reflection of the result that you wanted, whether that be get something updated to positive, get something deleted altogether, or get something to show as fully paid as agreed. Let me know if you got any other questions and I'll knock them out. But this is a long, frequently asked questions of things that we get all the time and how you can use it to your advantage, take your credit to the next level. Resources available down below.